So hello, welcome back to the next session, next part of human reproductive system. So till now we have done the difference between sexual and asexual reproduction, the types of asexual reproduction, modes of asexual reproduction we have done in detail, and we have also seen the basic characters of human reproduction. Now in today's session we have to start with the next part, that is the male reproductive system. All this has been covered. Yeah, so in the male reproductive system, which organs are there? So the organs are testes, a pair of testes, scrotal sac, epididymis, vas deferens, ejaculated duct, urethra, and the copulatory organ penis. Okay, and we are going to see there are also glands. We're going to see all this in detail. So let us start with the most important organ of the male reproductive system, that is the testes. So why testes is the most important organ? Because that is the one which is producing the male gamete. The male gamete is the sperm. Okay, and the sperm is being produced by the testes. Okay, how it is being produced? It is being produced by lobules. There are around 250 lobules over here, and in this 250 lobules we are having around 3 to 10 seminiferous tubules in each lobule. So these seminiferous tubules are blind sacked tubes, and in this blind sac tubes sperms are being produced. They are being produced in the order of spermatid, primary spermatocyte, secondary spermatocyte, spermatozoa, spermatogonia, and finally the mature sperm. So along with this seminiferous tubules, around these seminiferous tubules there are some cells which are called as Sertoli cells. These Sertoli cells are also called as the nurse cells. These nurse cells or the Sertoli cells nourish the sperms. Then there are also something called as the Leydig cells or the ISC cells, interstitial cell stimulating hormone, right, which will stimulate the cells to produce what? Testosterone. So another function of the testes is also that it is producing something called as the male sex hormone, that is testosterone. We've seen the secondary sexual characters about puberty in our last class. This is about that was because of testosterone. Okay, so now in today's session let us continue further with the testes in detail. You understood what is the major function of the testes, right? So testes are suspended outside the human body. Testes are not inside the body. Okay, they're suspended outside the human body in a scrotal sac. Now you must be wondering what was the reason to suspend the testes outside the human body, outside the abdominal cavity. So the reason is that the sperms require a temperature which is lower, 2 to 3 degrees Celsius lower than the body temperature. That is the reason why the testes are located outside the body, maintaining a lower temperature, so that sperms can be produced. Okay, not only this much, but this testes during the birth, during when the baby was a fetus, that time the testes were located inside the body in the abdominal cavity. Okay, and they descended after birth. They descended through the inguinal canal, right? They descended through the inguinal canal. Okay, and they are connected by a ligament called as gubernaculum. Gubernaculum is the ligament which is holding the testes. Okay, so talking about all this, these testes can also ascend and descend a little depending upon the temperature. So it's acting like a thermostat. If they become too cold, they are pulled a little towards the body to withdraw heat. If they become a little warm, so they are pushed away from the body a little. So that's how the gubernaculum is coiling and releasing, so that they can pull and descend and ascend the testes a little. Okay, so now talking about the layer of the testes, they are pink colored, right? The outer layer is tunica vaginalis and the inner layer is tunica albuginea. Okay, inside we are having these lobules. Inside the lobules there are seminiferous tubules. Now these seminiferous tubules, they will produce sperms and they will come and unite over here something towards something called as the rete testes. Then the rete testes, now this is important for NEET also. Okay, so rete testes move towards vasa efferentia or vas efferentia. Vas efferentia converts into epididymis. Here the epididymis stores the sperms for a few days in order to I mean, it's, you can say, the storage of the sperms, and at the same time, during the storage, it is also maturing the sperms. So the sperms are being matured and stored in epididymis. Whenever they are required, they will be ejaculated from the epididymis. So from the epididymis, where they will go, now epididymis is also having three parts, like the caput epididymis, the top part, that is caput epididymis, then the middle part is corpus epididymis, and the lower part is caudal epididymis. Cauda meaning tail, okay, and caput meaning cap. So the top part is caput, the tail part is cauda or caudal epididymis, and the middle part is corpus epididymis. Then this epididymis is only converting into vas deferens. Now this will convert into vas deferens, come inside the body, inside the abdominal cavity, and it will further join, the vas deferens will join the urethra. Now urethra is a common passage for the urine as well as sperms. This happens only in males, that the common passage, there is a common passage for urine as well as sperms. Okay, in females there are separate passages for urine as well as the egg. Okay, but here there is a common passage for the urine as well as the sperms. Okay, so how it is going to go, how vas deferens is going to climb up, that we are going to see later. Just go through these details over here. No need to note down the dimensions, but yes, you need to know what is scrotal sac. You need to know the ligament. I told you inguinal canal. Okay, so this inguinal canal also reminds me of Hitler. Hitler was a person whose testes did not descend. Now this is a disorder, right? In some people the testes just does not descend after birth. It's called as cryptorchidism. ठीक है, याद रखना पड़ेगा आपको. Okay, cryptorchidism. I'll write down the spelling for you. Okay, cryptorchidism, the failure to descend the testes outside the body, and this results in sterility. Now earlier it was a big problem, it could not be treated, but in these days cryptorchidism can be treated by a surgery. A minor surgery can treat this. Okay, so if the testes remains inside the body, obviously it will not be able to produce the sperms, and that's the reason why what's going to happen is cryptorchidism, and the male is going to become sterile. Sterile meaning he will not be able to reproduce. Okay, so that is cryptorchidism. Okay, then maintaining the temperature, secretion of testosterone, all this I have already explained, right? Now let's move on to the TS of testes. Here I had told you how the sperms are being produced. They are being produced by two types of cells, spermatogenic cells and sertoli cells. Spermatogenic cells will produce the sperms and sertoli cells will nourish the sperms. It will go, the order sequence will go like primary spermatocyte to secondary spermatocyte to spermatogonia to spermatids to sperms. That is the sequence. Okay, then I told you about sertoli cells, I told you about Leydig cells. Okay, then coming to the if you can see, this is a microscopic view of the testes. This is the original microscopic view of the testes. You can see over here the sertoli cells, the Leydig cells, the smooth muscles, the spermatids which are being formed, the primary spermatocytes, the spermatogonia, all these you can see over here. Moreover, what are the functions of the testosterone? I told you in our last class, functions of testosterone is secondary sexual characters in males. Now what are the secondary sexual characters in males? Development of facial hair, then broadening of shoulders, development of muscles, aggression, acne, all these are the secondary sexual characters and the functions of testosterone. Apart from this, it promotes development and development of secondary sexual characters. That is what I just told you. Then regulates metabolic activities, then growth stimulation and muscular development, that also I've told you, and stimulates urinary functions. Okay, we've discussed this. Then now epididymis also I've told you, the caput, corpus and caudal epididymis. Okay, it is going to store the sperms and it is going to mature the sperms here. It is going to enhance the activation and mobility of the sperms. It is going to contribute a little to the seminal fluid, and then we can send the sperm ahead through the vas deferens. The vas deferens is also called as the sperm duct. So your epididymis will further get continued into the vas deferens. So epididymis opens into the muscular duct called as 30 to 40 centimeters long, that is vas deferens. Okay, it enters the abdomen. I told you it's going to enter the abdomen through the inguinal canal. Okay, through the inguinal canal, it joins from either side to form an ejaculated duct receiving seminal vesicles. Now function of the ejaculatory duct. Okay, so the function of the ejaculatory duct is to push the sperms ahead, right? Ejaculation is an act of pushing the sperms towards outside the body. Now that push is required because the sperms need to travel all the way through the vagina, acidic, need to survive the acidic environment of the vagina. That's why the seminal fluid is alkaline in nature in order to combat the acidic character of the vaginal fluid. And this vaginal fluid will further continue to the cervix. So the sperms have to travel through the vagina to the cervix into the uterus, and it's a long journey for the sperms because the sperms are very tiny. It's the smallest cell of our body. It's very interesting to note that sperms are the smallest cell of our body, and egg is the largest cell of our body. So the sperms need to travel a very long distance. In 1 minute they hardly move 1 or 2 millimeters ahead. Okay, so they have to travel a long journey from the cervix through the three stages of the uterus, that is corpus fundus, infundibulum, and then they have to go to the fallopian tube where the egg is there in the ampulla region. The fallopian tube is again divided. We're going to see that fallopian tube is again divided into ampulla region, isthmus, and fimbriae. So it has to travel all the way to the ampulla region where the egg is located. So it's a long journey for the sperm. So that initial push given by the ejaculated duct will allow the sperms to swim a little and go forward. Okay, so ejaculated duct I told you. Then urethra, I told you in males urethra is longer than in females. The function of urethra in females is only passage of urine, but the function of urethra in males is dual, is passage of the sperms as well as urine. Okay, so it's also known as the urinogenital tract. It's a thick muscular walled duct. Okay, it is divided into prostate urethra. I mean, now the urethra originates from the urinary bladder. Urinary bladder is a place where the urine is stored. Yeah, can I have a diagram anywhere? Yeah, I think I'll have to go back. Diagram of, yeah, here we can have, see, this is the urinary bladder, and the urethra is originating from the urinary bladder. Okay, if you can't see it, this is your urinary bladder. Okay, this is your urinary bladder. You can see the urethra is originating from the urinary bladder, and here is the sphincter muscle to hold the urine. So when sperms are passing, urine will not pass. Okay, and when urine is passing, sperm will not pass. So these these sphincters control the passage of urine. So although it is a common passage, does not mean that both of them will pass together. Okay, this is a common passage, but it will pass, you can say it will pass alternatively. The sphincters will close, and it's like, when the PM car is going, no other car can be on the road. Okay, PM की गाड़ी का बोलता है ना, ताफा रहता है, right? The entire squad, तो वो जब जा रहा है दूसरी गाड़ी नहीं जा सकती, just like that. So here, if you are not able to see, I'll just zoom in this diagram a little. Okay, here you can see now this is the urinary bladder. This is the urethra. Urethra is longer in males. This urethra is passing, it's like, this is the prostate gland which is ahead of the urethra. So this is called as the prostate urethra. And this urethra, at times, what happens, that some people, especially people who are above 40, now this was more common in US and now it is becoming even more common in India. Okay, that the prostate gland develops something called as prostate hyperplasia. Now what is prostate hyperplasia? Prostate hyperplasia meaning enlargement of the prostate a little. Hyper, zyada, more, above. Plasia, tissue. A little bit of extra tissue is being developed on the prostate. That's why the size of the prostate increases a little. When the size of the prostate increases a little, don't you think it is going to press against the urethra? So if this size increases, the urethra is going to get pressed. If the urethra gets pressed, it is going to cause something called as urine dribbling. Now what is urine dribbling? Urine dribbling meaning the urge to go to urine, that is micturition, to go and micturate, but because of the, you can imagine, right, there is a rubber pipe. If you press that rubber pipe, water will not flow freely, isn't it? Similarly, same thing is happening over here. Because of the enlargement of the prostate gland, the urethra is getting pressed a little and urine is not able to freely flow. Okay, and that's the reason why it's causing urine dribbling. It's causing residual urine left in the urinary bladder. The feeling of complete emptying of the urinary bladder is not there. And that's the reason why the person is suffering from polyuria. Polyuria meaning frequent urination. It is happening because of urine dribbling. The urine cannot freely come out of the body. Okay, so that is urine dribbling. So what can be done in this case? Mostly doctors suggest an operation, but there is also a medicinal way of curing it. That is, there is an alpha receptor over here which can be stimulated by giving a tablet or drug called as tamsulosin. Tamsulosin 0.4 mg, which will contract the prostate gland temporarily and allow the free flow of urine. Okay, so it is marketed by the brand name Dynapress and Urimax. You can consult, if anybody is suffering, you can consult their urologist and go for it. Okay, so this is the urethra. It is going to travel through the copulatory organ, male copulatory organ, and push the urine outside. And meanwhile, it's also having the ejaculated duct, which will push the sperms towards the outside. Let's zoom out and get back to the slide on which we were on. We were here, ejaculated duct and urethra. This is done. Now we are moving on to the glands, seminal vesicles. Okay, now the seminal vesicles are the part of the seminal vesicles. What is the function? I have explained in another part. I'll drop in the link of all these explanation of about the glands. I'll just drop in a link and you can watch about the glands, how they function in the description. Just click on that link. You will be able to watch the roles of these glands. Each gland I've explained in detail. Okay, now this is a summary of every organ of the male reproductive system. With this, we finish the male reproductive system, and now it's time to move on to the female reproductive system. Now, when we are talking about the female reproductive system, the organs which are present in the female reproductive system are the pair of ovaries, a pair of oviducts, uterus, vaginal passage, genitalia. Genitalia is the external covering of the vagina, that is the vulva, and vestibule. Vestibule is a lip-like opening. Okay, so your lips are vestibular. Similarly, there is a vestibular opening at the genitalia. Okay, and glands, that is mammary glands or Bartholin's gland. So let us focus on the first organ of the female reproductive system, that is the ovaries. Okay, so like in males, testes was the most important organ, the major organ which was present producing the male gamete, that is the sperm. Similarly, the ovaries are going to produce the major gamete, okay, the most important gamete, which is called as the female egg or oocyte. Okay, so no need to remember the dimensions of the ovaries. Okay, where are they located? They are located on the lateral walls of the pelvis, ventral to the kidneys. These are held in positions by ligaments. The ligament here is mesovarium. If you remember, in testes, the gland, the ligament was gubernaculum, and the canal, the passage of testes, where from where the testes descended and through which the vas deferens is going up, is the inguinal canal. That is in males. But in females, this ligament through which the ovaries are held is mesovarium. Okay, you have to remember this, even for your NEET perspective. Then ovaries become active during the puberty and the menstrual cycle. So puberty hits a female somewhere around the age of 12 to 14. Okay, it may differ from females to females, right? And the onset of menstrual cycle is called as the menarche. Okay, the beginning of the menstrual cycle, it's called as a menarche, and the permanent stoppage of the menstrual cycle is called as the menopause. Sometimes the menstrual cycle also temporarily stops in middle of this menarche and menopause. In between menarche and menopause, temporarily sometimes the menstrual cycle stops in between. Now there are different reasons why the menstrual cycle is being stopped in between. It's one primary reason is because of pregnancy. Because of pregnancy, the menstrual cycle will stop in between. Otherwise, there is dysmenorrhea or amenorrhea. Now dysmenorrhea or amenorrhea happen because of overstress. That happens in athletes. Okay, this happens in athletes who are taking a lot of physical stress, okay, which are having a lot of physical stress. They suffer from something called as dysmenorrhea or amenorrhea, in which there is temporary stoppage of the menstrual cycle. Well, let's talk further about the ovaries. The ovaries get activated during the menstrual cycle, during the menarche. They become activated. You know, there are you can say underdeveloped eggs are still present in the ovary even when the female was herself a fetus. मतलब वो बच्ची जब खुद एक fetus थी तब से उसके ओवरीज में वो एग्स पड़े हुए, एग्स इन द सेंस अंडर डेवलप्ड एग्स, जो आगे चल के एग बनने वाले हैं, आगे चल के oocyte बनने वाला है, आगे चल के ग्राफिन फॉलिकल बनने वाला है। तो वो जो प्राइमरी oocytes है या यू कैन से द अंडर डेवलप्ड एग्स है, वो पहले से ही प्रेजेंट रहते हैं, एंड दे बिकम एक्टिवेटेड ओनली ड्यूरिंग द ऑनसेट ऑफ मेंस्ट्रुअल साइकिल. So it secretes hormones such as estrogen and progesterone, which are very important. Estrogen is contributing to the female secondary sexual characters, development of mammary glands, enlargement of hips, and change in voice. Change in voice is not noticed starkly in females, it's noticed in males. That's hoarseness of voice, we have discussed about that earlier. And progesterone is required for the maintenance of pregnancy and controls the onset of the menstrual phase in the menstrual cycle. Okay, so the day the progesterone level drops, the menstrual phase begins. There is onset of bleeding for 5 days. Then next, the reproductive period is between menopause and menarche is about somewhat around 32 years. Now this is an approximate value, 32 years. So in that period of 32 years, a female produces about 416 eggs. Okay, on an average, this is on an average that female produces 416 eggs. Now talking about after talking about the ovaries, here we are having something called as the oviducts, which is also the fallopian tube. Now this is very important, especially when pregnancy is concerned. Now here you are having your fallopian tube. If you can see this is your fallopian tube. Now this is the fimbriae, the finger-like projections. I hope you are able to see this, right? The finger-like projections, they are the fimbriae. They are holding the ovaries, right? So this fimbriae, they are holding the ovaries, and here we are having the fallopian tube. Okay, actually the ovaries are also held by this ligand, that is called as mesovarium. The fimbriae is just kind of supporting the ovaries, and then this fimbriae is opening into the fallopian tube. Fallopian tube is also called as the oviduct. Okay, so egg will be released from the ovary. Okay, I am going to explain in detail how the egg is being released from the ovary, how the graphene follicle ruptures on the 14th day of the menstrual cycle. And when that happens, this egg is released into the fallopian tube. Okay, and when it is released into the fallopian tube, what happens, how it is being progressed, how the ciliary movement travel the egg through the parts of the oviduct, which is ampulla, isthmus, and all these parts. We are going to see that in detail in our following class video, otherwise it will become too long. So we'll see that in our following class. We're going to continue from the oviduct or the fallopian tube. Till then, happy studying to all of you.